Again is a wildlife rehabilitation center. Our mission is to take in orphan, injured, or ill wildlife and take care of them until they can be released back into the wild. I have been rehabilitating for over 20 years. When I got my first permit, we were doing rehabilitation on a very small level, just literally out of the house. On the level we're at now, where we have the whole center, it's been about 15 years, actually more, that we have been doing large numbers of animals here. We have a cheat sheet of how much fruit to start with, and then we have a check-off list that every week I put the animals on the list so that the people know how many there are to prepare their diets. We do have a permanent raccoon. Raccoons are primarily omnivore, so their basic diet is dog food with the addition of fruit. Opossums are also a omnivore, eating both meat and vegetation, as in fruits and vegetables. Everything from sweet potatoes. We have sprouts there that have been donated, which, again, an incredible variety for these animals to choose from. The American coots that we have in, they are strictly insect and small fish eaters. We have two types. We have mealworms, waxworms, and minnows in there. He will pick out the waxworms first, then he'll pick out the mealworms, and then he'll go to the fish.
Let's see. Well, we have 6 red-tailed hawks outside. We have a chart up here that gives us how many ounces each bird needs. The red-tails get about 3 to 4 ounces each. And this will be my third one. We like to give them live so they, we know that they're proficient at hunting before we release them, but we usually give them chicken most of the time. I usually separate these. I'll put food for one bird over here.
This is Simba. He's a South American cougar. The lifespan of a cougar is about 18 years in captivity. So it looks like we got another 4 years to go, at least. He'll never be released. He was declawed, so he's pretty permanently here. One of my favorite questions when we get groups out here is this a big cat or a little cat? This is a little cat. You might have heard him here. He's been purring. Little cats purr, big cats don't. So lions and tigers don't purr, but he's still classified as a little cat because he does purr. Tiger or a lion, they can run up to 400 pounds. Now he's a little small for a cougar. He weighs in about 100 or 110. Western cougars in the United States can actually, Western Canada, get up to 160. He eats almost any raw meat we can get him. We go through it all at roadkill, almost 50 deer a year we end up butchering.
Oh no. Come on. piece of meat. He got a nick. Very fresh, tender, young nick, and he's enjoying it.
Southern Illinois is for one thing, we have more topography than the rest of the state. There's up and down, there are hills here. And the forest is still very contiguous. You have large blocks of forest. And because of that, there are a number of species that occur here that don't occur anywhere else in the state.
We do have a young bobcat that came into us last fall that was in pretty sad shape. I don't think he would have had more than a few more days out in the wild left to his life when we got him. It took a few weeks to get his body condition up to where he even felt like a bobcat. One day, he just suddenly had enough energy. He started acting much more aggressive. He's doing well as far as strength. His hunting skills are pretty good. Being a cat, cat's natural instinct is much stronger than a lot of the other animals. So we're pretty sure his natural instincts will take over and he'll do well in the wild. Taz is a bobcat that we received because he had been a confiscated pet. And unfortunately, he is declawed in the front. He had been socialized, a fair amount, but we didn't even have a chance of putting him anywhere, of course, because he was declawed. He's been here at least 6 years. And so he's been here, basically his whole life. Well, with spring here, baby season is starting. In the wild world, spring starts a lot sooner than many people realize. Great horned owls are on eggs in February. When we get the animals in, the orphans are fairly easy from the standpoint of the food and the initial housing. But as these animals grow, it's quite a challenge to try to reproduce an environment where they can learn some natural skills. To get an animal to be rehabilitated, to be released, depends on whether we're talking orphans versus an injury. An orphan, it may take up to 4 months. If we get literally a newborn raccoon, they are not ready, they just don't have the skills until they're about 3.5 to 4 months old. Some are much faster. Squirrels can be released by the time they're 3 months old. Instincts in animals kick in usually as they mature, and so we have to assume these youngsters, these juveniles, it's not going to come rapidly. It's going to be trial and error on many of the things that they do in play, but they can translate that into things that they will need once they are out in the wild.
Bev really could use volunteers. She's overwhelmed. She does her very best, but she could really use the volunteers, and it's hard to get volunteers to commit because everybody has their own lives as well.
Again would not be here if there weren't volunteers. At this point in time, we do not have the income that you might have in a larger, more affluent area to actually be able to have salaried employees. So we rely 100% on volunteers, myself included.
I saw a flyer for a birds of prey program that Bev was doing, and I checked it out because I've always loved birds of prey. And when I went to go see the program, she had mentioned she does wildlife rehab and needs volunteers, and I jumped right on it. It's something I've always wanted to do, and that's what brought me here.
They're the ones, though, most birds when they're sitting on the pond.
Well, the kind of birds that we see here are from all different kinds of species. There's American kestrels, there are bald eagles, red-tailed hawks, and several different owls, barn owls, barred owls, pretty much anything you could think of around Southern Illinois.
To train the educational animals to be used for our programs requires a lot of dedication and just a lot of hours to get that animal manned. We don't tame them. They are never truly tamed. The term that is used is manning them. This is Journey. This is my oldest educational bird that we have. We originally got her as a youngster. She did not have her red tail yet at the time, and she was a bird that had been hit by a car, had a broken wing. Journey has done thousands of programs with us over the years.
Now that I've been here for about 2.5 years, I started working with the birds of prey that she has out here as educational animals. This is Bianca. She's one of our resident educational barred owls. Barred owls are known for their signature "Who Cooks For You" call and the barring that you can see here on the belly. She came in about 8 years ago. Bev said that when she was found, she had been dangling from a barbed wire fence for several hours. And so there's permanent nerve damage in her shoulder, so she cannot fly anymore.
This is Mr. Magoo. This is his 3rd year here. He has a little bit of a cloudy eye there. He can't see out of the cloudy eye completely. His other good eye, he can kind of see a little bit. He can see shapes and things like that, so he can get his food without having to be hand-fed or anything.
Free Again helps individual animals and literally saves their lives. But a bigger role is also to educate people about the needs of wildlife and the needs for habitat. Here in the east, the eastern cougar is listed as endangered here in Illinois and east of the Mississippi River. And so a lot of people would never be able to see one. And when they go to events with Free Again Wildlife, they get to see these animals that are very rare and learn more about them and learn what they can do to help endangered species and all kinds of wildlife.
It's really the thing that I think as wildlife professionals maybe we've fallen down on is not providing enough elementary education. It's really the most important thing, because the younger that kids are when they receive education about wildlife and wildlife biology, the more they're going to be interested in it when they're older. When they learn it then, when they're excited about learning it, that's where you can really make a difference.
The education part of our mission, I think, is extremely important, because when we do our programs and we see these children who have never seen an owl, and these are children that should be able to go out in their backyards and see animals on a regular basis, and they aren't because they just don't know to go out and look. I really think we are making a big improvement in the education of these young people to try to get out into nature, to see what's around them.
Free Again takes big steps to be an educational source, whether it be through programs, which Bev does do a lot of programs with her educational birds, and also she has an educational raccoon, cougar, and bobcat. So they provide people with an up-close experience. I feel that when people actually get to see and interact with an animal, that they gain a better understanding, a better connection with the animal.
Free Again is important to the community because we have to teach our new generations to care about wildlife. And if there's a place to take the wildlife that we can release them again, then it teaches your kids you don't just run over wildlife and leave it be to suffer. And then we have to take responsibility for our actions.
An age of a child that should know a respect for animals, I believe, is as early as they can understand. We have been doing the bake sale to fundraise for Free Again for 6 years. We raise between $200 and $300, and then their reward for doing all this hard work is they get to go visit the rehab facility, and we actually adopt an animal that we would like the money to go to. And it's very educational because they learn a lot about the importance of wildlife.
If we didn't know about wildlife, the balance of life would be offset, because if we didn't know about them, basically we wouldn't know about us, because we are animals.
Wildlife is part of the ecosystem, and without them we wouldn't be here.
If you don't know about wildlife,
then you won't know what animal it is or how to take care of it.
We do a lot of units on wildlife and animals. If you teach a child young, that will carry through their whole life and spread over other areas. And I am adamant about being kind to animals.
If I saw a hurt animal, I would rescue it.
How would you rescue it?
By bringing it to Bev's shop stall. Bring it to Bev's shop stall.
Bring it to Bev's shop stall.
To the vet or Bev's shop stall.
The majority of the wildlife that we see are probably the birds, especially the birds of prey. The most common things are where we actually intervene medically or surgically. Most of them are bone injuries, skeletal injuries. And so we'll see broken wings, broken legs, that sort of thing.
We get a bird in with a broken, let's say a broken humerus in their wing. First thing we do, of course, is just stabilize them as they come in and then get an x-ray. If the x-ray shows that they could be a good viable repair, we go for it. Maybe looking on a dead end.
I'd say a lateral, I'd say we should do a lateral.
The most recent surgery that we did was on a hawk that had a fracture of the ulna in one wing, and we had placed an intermedullary pin, a little steel pin inside the bone to just hold the end somewhat immobilized while it was healing. To do that kind of a procedure, it's a fairly short thing, but it does require anesthesia, and so that's done with general anesthetic gas. And Bev, having been an experienced veterinary technician, usually takes care of getting the animal handled and anesthetized and preps the site wherever we're going to be working on it. In this case, then, it would require just a small, tiny little incision near the end of the pin. That you always try to leave, if it's a pin that you think you're going to remove, you try to leave a little bit sticking out of the bone somewhere where you can find it and get a hold of it. So we made a little incision near the point of the elbow and probed around there till we got a hold of the pin, and then just pulled it out from the bone. And then it's a small